Hello everyone, welcome back to YouTube. This is FlappyWobble69 and today we are doing our next ship inspection review analysis in the IGN heavy cruiser line. This is the Tier 7 Myoko class of heavy cruisers for the Japanese. So basically, what are you getting with the Myoko? And this line is obviously pretty easy. As I've stated this with my long ass for a taco video. The Myoko is just, again, building on the foundation that ship has laid. At Tier 6, the Aoba did a really good job, almost a carbon copy, if I'm being honest with you. Still retaining that 48mm deck. That's awesome down there at Tier 5 and Tier 6. But once we come up here to Tier 7, our turret arrangement is similar but also different as we gain the addition of 2 more turrets, bringing our total turrets to 10, I believe. So, and again, we have, in my opinion, the third turret, once we get to that point and talking about it, is in a little wonky position. We'll talk about that one too for a little bit too here about the turret firing angles and all that stuff. But like I do in all my videos here when I'm doing my ship review, especially when I'm going down the line of tech tree cruisers, I'm going to talk about the armor scheme a little bit and just go down some of the soft stats so you kind of know what you're looking at, what you're getting into here. And then I'm going to go ahead and show you some awesome gameplay I had in the Myoko. And overall, a very enjoyable experience for me. So let's go ahead and take a look at the armor layout first things first. So as you notice, off the get-go, I want to point out you lose that 48mm deck. It does suck. This is it's a tough one to swallow, tough pill to swallow. Do I understand why they did it? Well, I understand just because I guess for a balance sake, overmatch is the thing in this game. But I also don't understand then why, if overmatch is a thing at this game, why we have it down at Tier 5 and Tier 6. Yeah, it's a little bit of a question mark. But then again, I'm not going to complain as someone who loves cruisers. I'm 100% not going to complain about a 48mm deck at Tier 5 and Tier 6. And 32 is pretty standard for a heavy cruiser at this tier. And I enjoy the Myoko. And I do find that this is very good at shouting light cruiser HE, but now with your 203mm guns, you're going to see, which is, again, more prominent at this tier. Again, you're going to start seeing battleships with 406s, 410s. The larger gun calibers, they're going to just cut right through this and slice right through it and go right into your Citadel. You have the 16mm nose, 16mm butt. Also, side note of the ship, you do have these, again, these torpedo bulges, which is actually bringing your torpedo protection from the Aoba's 4% now to a whopping 13%. Quite noticeable change, I would say. Again, regarding of the torpedo you take, the damage, all the calculations, numbers, etc. But again, these will act like space armor for you, and they're a little bit more prominent here on the Myoko. I don't really find the Myoko to be too tanky. I do find this cruiser to be relatively easy to Citadel, as I go ahead and show you here with that kind of that stepped Citadel you're seeing. Yes, the Citadel does go, I believe, at the waterline, or just slightly below. I think it's at the, just at the waterline under the turrets. So again, still hittable and penetrationable. But then, yeah, we kind of go up here in the midsection here, which is definitely prominent, and you will eat Citadel. So pay mind to that. Watch your broadside and make sure to know where enemy fire is coming from so you can help mitigate that. One thing you're going to notice with the Myoko and why she eats a lot more Citadels, or it seems why you're eating more Citadels, I believe, is just the addition of those extra turrets. With your, in order to get all turrets online, as you're going to see by what I post here with the gun firing angles, you're going to be exposing a lot more broadside than you'd want to. Let's just be honest. In order to get that number 3 and number 4 turret online, firing. Again, it's going to be a little bit easier for you, still exposing a lot of broadside, in my opinion, when you're kiting away and sailing away from the enemy, such as, you know, this or whatever. But you will, that's why I believe this ship does take a lot more Citadels, is just because the prevalence of those turrets, and a lot of players feel like they have to shoot all their turrets at once all the time. One big tip I can tell you while trying to play the ship, and what really helped me out, especially earlier on when I was playing World of Warships and going down this line, is definitely choosing when to swivel out, exposing your broadside, and shooting all your turrets, rather than just picking and choosing, maybe shooting 2 to 3 of your turrets at a time, depending on the angle of the ship and who you're fighting. It's good to know who you're fighting, who's shooting at you, and the gun calibers in which they're shooting at you as well. I mean, yes, you have the 30 degrees auto bounce angle on the belt, which is obviously prevalent with all ships in this game. But if you go anywhere exceeding that, I mean, this thing just it blows up. It's not as light as other cruisers you would see at this tier, but again, just based on the health millimeter of plating that you're going to see on this ship, with what 25 torpedo bulge, then with an additional 102 underneath, it just is. It's a like a prime threshold for AP shells, large AP shells, just fusing right there and in your Citadel and scoring Citadel ribbons. So please be careful when playing this ship. Let's move on to the artillery. You do have, like I mentioned, the 5x2 203 millimeter guns on this vessel. They're reloading in about 14 seconds, which your 180-degree turret time is 36 seconds. Again, your maximum range extending out to 15.6 kilometers. Again, that's nice. Going from the AOBA's 14.9, you get a little bit more range, which is awesome. Again, we've talked about this in the last video with AOBA that I know on the Lesta Game Studio. So this is the Russian client. They actually buffed the AOBA, the Myoko, and the Mogami with the addition in their fighter plane consumable slot. Also with the addition, they can take or swap it out for a spotter plane, which would help these ships out a lot. Do they need this? Yeah, I kind of think they do. And the reason why I think they do need this, a little bit of a help, is I think the range of these ships is very limited for what the play stuff, for what they're trying to achieve. And I think it would help make the ship just a little bit more, or these ships, the three ships, a little bit more enjoyable, more flexible, and a little bit easier to learn and play than they are now. Because even the ranges they are now, in which is their max range, especially the Aoba and the Furitaka, well, not the Furitaka, sorry, the Aoba, you're playing around a range that it's very dangerous. People are going to start landing more shells on you reliably, so you're going to have to definitely play around and definitely know the art of rudder juking and full stopping turning out. So, quick note about her HE. Again, you're maintaining that 3300 HE alpha, which is potent with a 19% fire chance. I believe I do have some signal flags taken, so that's why she does have that. I believe her original base chance is 17% chance of fire. Again, we're going to see this up and down the line. HE is very, very good on this ship. Again, coupled with a good fire chance as well. You do not want to be on the receiving end of this HE. That's for sure. And then I do want to mention about the initial velocity of the shells at 840 meters a second. This is very similar to, I believe, the American heavy cruiser AP that you're going to be finding at this tier. It's relatively within the same range. So if you have played those ships and understand how to lead with those vessels, then these ships should be pretty similar and feel pretty comfortable in regards of the artillery. They don't have, obviously, the heavy AP that those ships have. Especially around the Baltimore stage, but they do have potent armor piercing. But just a quick note about that, the initial shell velocity is something that to know, kind of calculating your lead to take on certain targets at certain ranges. So, secondary battery, 4x2, 127 millimeter guns. Definitely nice having 127 millimeters now because you can penetrate 21 millimeters rather than the 120 mounts that you had before. That's nice. And you're clocking in a 9% fire chance. It's pretty good as well. So again, secondaries on this ship, again, don't rely on these. It's just right there if you need one extra hit on a sub or a DD at close range, maybe the occasional fire. You shouldn't really be in those ranges anyways, just based upon how these ships play. Going to torpedo tubes, you have 4x3, 610 millimeter torp. So you have the 3 launchers now. So I think before you had the quads, now you have 3s. I always find the 3 launchers more usable in this in World of Warships based upon their dispersion patterns. I don't know. It could just be me. I find like the quad launchers are the worst. They always seem to go 2 to the left, 2 to the right, and leave a massive battleship-sized gap hole to basically say dodge here. But yeah, these are good torps, and they travel at that standard range of 10 kilometers, hitting around 17,000 and some change, going 62 knots with a detectability range of 1.6, which again is giving the opposing ship about a 9.6 second reaction time. So not terrible at all. Not terrible at all. With the torpedo armament setup on the Myoko. Again, you have the airstrikes. You do not have the depth charges. AA defense. So for me, the Myoko's AA is definitely an improvement for what we've seen with the Aoba and the Furitaka. I do find that the Myoko will actually shoot down a little bit more planes than those vessels. And again, I guess that comes down probably to, is it the mid-ranged AA on this thing? I mean, again, it's AA. It's not really there to fend off a strike completely. It's there to certainly mitigate or dilute a strike, but how much it's diluting is, again, it's again, it's subject to opinion. I don't really want to go there. Just know that this is not considered an AA vessel, but I do find her AA to be a little bit more potent than the previous tiers you've seen with this line. Going to maneuverability, you are clocking in at 36.8 knots, and I believe that is with the flag. I'll double check real quick because if it is yeah, so it is with the flag. So let me take it off. So you're clocking at 35 knots base with the Myoko with a turning circle radius of 780 meters with a rudder shift time of 7.1. Noticeably larger turning circle radius and a longer rudder shift time than the Aoba. Aoba's clocking in, like I told you, at 6.5 seconds with a 710. The rudder shift then, you will notice just because of your larger turning circle radius that this thing is a little bit more sluggish. Again, adding to why I believe this ship is a little harder to play, and taking more citadels just because of that, coupled with your broadside, amount of your turret arrangement, that kind of stuff. So just pay that mind. And then with your concealment value, you're clocking in at a base of about 12.8. It's just slightly under that actually with 12.76 kilometers. And then detection by air is 6.56 kilometers. And I think we also have a smoke firing penalty of 7.6 if you ever happen to have an allied smoke screen or whatnot. This is the first ship in the line, in my opinion, that is pretty detectable. And I'll show you my commander build too, and what I recommend how you build a commander. But yeah, this is we're starting to up because I believe you have the addition of 2 extra turrets, so you have a larger broadside in order to dish out the pain. That's why certain numbers have to be tweaked. Also, you're going up to the next tier as well. I mean, the Aoba and the Furitaka only have that, 3 turrets of 2 gun barrels per turret, so I understand the balance factors there. And obviously the Furitaka having 203s at tier 5, which is awesome. So we're starting to see this. 203s at tier 7, in my opinion, is when tier 7, 203s become more prominent. You're going to see a lot more cruisers, heavy cruisers sailing around for various nations. Some get them at tier 5, like this line. Some get them at tier 6, like the Pensacola for the Americans. And then obviously most people get it at tier 7, if not tier 8. So that's the Myoko, that is the Myoko in port for its soft stats. We're just going to go ahead and look at the commander and go up a little over the upgrades. Obviously in slot 1, I'm going to recommend the main armaments modification 1 for you guys. In the second slot, I actually do go ahead and take the engine room protection. I just want to make sure that I keep my, let me look at this. There we go. I want to make sure that I keep my steering gears intact. The repair time of my engine and my steering gears, keep them a little bit quicker, and chance of them not becoming incapacitated from HE spam, that kind of stuff. So I think it helps me out a lot more than the -3 and -5%, fire and flood that the damage will do. So again, very important for most cruisers, I would say but we'll cross that bridge when we need to based on certain lines. I go ahead and take aiming systems. Again, because there's torpedoes, and I want to make sure they traverse a little bit faster for me, especially with their poor angles, which we'll talk about again. I kind of breezed over that a little bit. But yeah, the torpedo angles are, you'll have to see them when I put them up on screen. Not very good. Not very good at all. And then, when I did put them up on screen, sorry. And then, again, with the -7% main battery shell dispersion, I'm never going to complain over that, guys. So. And then in this last slot, I actually take steering gears modification 1, even though it recommends you take propulsion modification 1. Now, the reason I take steering gears modification 1, guys, is because it does bring my rudder shift down to 5.7. And because of my armament layout and my broadside, with the addition of those 2 extra turrets, I want to mitigate the amount of time it's taking me to swivel out, release a full broadside, and swivel back to an angled, more, defensive posture. It really helps, for me at least, to use this this rudder shift mod, which again is decreasing my rudder shift time by 20% rather than propulsion. I know a lot of people would rather have that start and stop kind of juking ability, and that is fine. That is your opinion if that's what you choose. But some vessels, in my opinion, when they have certain armament layouts based upon their rudder shift time, I'm calculating all this, and I have a method of my madness. I go with the rudder shift mod 1 in this slot for that exact reason. Consumables, pretty self-explanatory. You have the ability to go defensive or hydro. Because of the AA on this ship, this is a ship that you could theoretically consider taking your defensive AA if you so choose. In my opinion, though, still with the measly 2 flak, buffing that damage, still pretty easy for aircraft carriers to go ahead and dodge that. I still would probably recommend Hydra. I think you're going to get more use out of that skill or that consumable in general. And then obviously you have the fighter, which is kind of meh. It's there. Should be a spotter plane, in my opinion. We already talked about that. And then again, you have the submarine surveillance radar. Most cases you shouldn't be utilizing this and going hunt submarines. That's not really your case. I would say it's more of a deterrent for submarine players who royally F up rather than going out and actively hunting submarines. Just, again, my opinion. Going over the commander build, okay, again, I only have, a level 19 commander, which, again, is not terrible for a tier 7 ship. Again, I remember when I first ground the ship, I started with, I think, a 3-point commander. So I've played it enough that I have enough of an idea how to play this thing that I grinded him all the way up to 19. He doesn't change. He doesn't leave the Myoko. He sticks on this vessel. This is his boat. Ryo Suzuki, man, this is his boat. And I'm going ahead and I'm grabbing Grease the Gears, Demo Expert, Adrenaline Rush, Concealment, top grade gunner, and then yes, I actually take Pack a Punch on this boat. Something around the tier 7, being able to go between 5 to 7 or 7 to 9. I find that the torpedoes hit a lot harder now. Oh, obviously no, obviously the captain skill, they hit a lot harder, but I feel like that extra torpedo damage is so crucial. It bumps me up from 17,000 some change to about 19,000, almost 20,000. Like this is what Shimakaze level torpedoes in the range, obviously a little bit less, clearly not the 21,000, but like almost, right? These hit hard. This is saved me from a lot of rough positions of battleships pushing into me. I remember verbatimly one of these games I had with a Ganesha now took 2 of these bad boys, and he was almost actually on full health and gave me the advantage in that fight, bringing him down around 20,000. Or maybe it was 3 torpedoes. I'm not 100% sure, but like basically, like these are potent torpedoes, and this helps that skill even more. I don't think Superintendent is necessary on this ship. We're not really needing that extra hydro charge. I'm not really needing that extra fighter charge or the submarine surveillance, so I don't really use it. I mean, survivability expert on a cruiser anyways. It depends. I guess if you're a lighter cruiser with a smaller HP pool, maybe. But like again, for me, I can play around my HP pool, which is with everything with the flags and whatnot is 41,200, which base is 39,200. Again, I'm not needing that at all either. When I get my 21-point commander, I think I'm going to go ahead and pick up Last Stand and Gunfeeder. Gunfeeder to switch between AP and HE because I told you these ships are kind of opportunists. Definitely potent armor piercing, as you will see in the replay. I definitely caught some ships with it, and especially battleships. I remember I was chunking an NC for massive AP damage. So these are 203mm guns. These guns have to be respected at all times. Please, believe me. And then Last Stand, I want to make sure that even if my steering gears get knocked off while they have the shorter repair time or my engine, I can still maneuver and not cost my ship. Do the circle of death, exposing broadside to everyone. Everyone gets a little piece of you until you die. Or sometimes it actually throws off a lot of battleship players, to be absolutely honest with you guys. So yeah, so that's the Myoko, guys. Hopefully you did a good job talking about her. I don't want to go too long here because this is a longer replay. This goes the full 20 minutes. So without further ado, let's dive into the replay, guys. All right, guys. So welcome into the game here. As you can see, again, I'm sorry. Hopefully I stopped doing this. I played this game in a 3-man division. I'm gonna try to pick my spots better and play a little bit more solo for you guys. Hopefully the Mogami guide that I end up pumping out here later on, I do a solo version, so you can see that. And I'm thinking about also doing making that a little longer video, as the Mogami can slot 2 different armament types. So I might do that as well, just to get you guys a full grasp of like my opinion on which ones you should play and whatnot. But enough about that. We're gonna talk about the Myoko here, the tier 7 heavy cruiser for the Japanese here. Obviously, I said a lot about her in port, and hopefully I didn't go too long about her, but she is a very fun ship to play. But I do think that this is, the first jump is from the Kuma to the Furataka. I think that it is a little bit of a hard jump between there because you're learning, because basically, you're playing almost 2 different games at that point. Tier 5 definitely is a big jump for most ship lines, if not everyone, and especially if it's your first ship line that you're grinding. It's going to be hard regardless. But now, after we played the Aoba, I'm going to the Myoko. I believe this is the next jump the line takes. I do believe the line takes one more jump, and I'll make sure to illustrate that when I tell you when it does. But basically, the Myoko, in my opinion, excels at what we've already established. And I keep saying this. I'm going to keep hitting the hammer, hitting the nail on the head here. The kiting away HE spamming play style that, again, is installed upon us at the Furataka down at tier 5 carries with us all the way up to the tier 7. And now you're getting a more potent main battery with more shells delivering downrange. Now, I am under the firm believer. Again, some people will disagree with me, and that's 100% okay. More shells volume, in my opinion. I prefer shells with more shell volume and more shells going down range rather than those with like, the 6 or the 9, that kind of stuff. And it just comes down. I mean, granted, like those ships, if you have like 457s or massive, 510s, like yes, they hit hard and they are fun. And I do have good results in those. But I think, especially for newer players, I think the shell volume going down range is just a little bit easier for them because there's a higher chance that you're going to be hitting your target, and also a wider variety of where the target's going to be hit at, increasing your likelihood for either A, setting fires, B, scoring Citadel ribbons, that sort of stuff. Um, the Myoko, in my opinion, with the slow turret traverse, I think it's like 36 seconds base to turn 180 degrees. It is a little bit slower. I can't remember if it's slower than the Aoba's. It looks like actually it's the same. So they both retain the 36-second turret traverse. But that third turret, I believe it turns not 360, but it actually turns the opposite direction, which you're going to see a lot in these ships. And it starts off with this ship. That number 3 turret on the front there, closest to the bridge, will actually turn towards you, which allows you to keep more of your main battery online often. When you're in the kited position, rotating from the left side to your right side or starboard to port. Which is nice. It's super nice. I mean, this line obviously doesn't get the new treatment of your 360-degree turrets. You're starting to see that's a lot more prominent, which again, it does suck that it doesn't have that. Again, I don't think every line should have that, and hopefully they start reining that in with a bunch of ships. That they don't all have 360-degree turrets, but I digress. But yeah, basically just to talk about a little about the game here. Obviously, we're not making an aggressive push. There is no reason to make an aggressive push here. Judging by that they have a Myoko, a Devonshire, Scharnhorst. Looks like the Jervis and the Benson, I believe. If it is a Benson, I have to double check on that. We're last spotted, that division was last spotted kind of in the middle, so I know there's no DD here. But again, pushing into potentially North Carolina as well, coming around, it just doesn't make sense. Definitely we got to play the long game here, as this is a capture the flag game. This isn't a domination style or arms race or anything like that. So again, we could play a little bit more passive. Knowing the game mode and how to play around it is obviously going to be very, very crucial for you. And I think that IGN ships, especially with capture the flag, will benefit the most just because they don't have to be aggressive, so to speak. They're definitely more passive and enjoyable. They're not like, high octane, middle to close range guys with rapid fire guns. Like it's definitely more relaxing in my opinion when I play an IGN cruiser. You'll definitely see that more when you climb up the higher tiers, especially with a ship like the Yoshino, the Azuma, those kind of ships. Definitely more of the relaxing play style. So, and as you see on landing these HE values on shots on the Benson, the HE is potent. It certainly is potent. I think in 2 salvos with the aid of our team, we've done like what 7-8K to this guy, and that obviously that last salvo wasn't aimed right, and then he happened to be he died right before our 4th salvo made contact with him as well. These ships definitely with their dispersion values. They definitely reward great marksmanship. That is something that I want to stress to you guys. Obviously, at its max firing range, the Myoko has a horizontal dispersion of 135 meters and a vertical dispersion of 82. That's pretty freaking good, guys. These ships, you will notice that your shells will not only touch from time to time, but definitely go more so where you want them to go, rather than other lines that don't have that to their ability. And that's something to make note. I think I think Wargaming buffed that down the road, or way down the road, or way in back in the day. Sorry, they changed the values of their main artillery. I want to say like 3-4 years ago. It's been a while, but they've definitely changed that. Um, but yeah, like for example, like for another cruiser that you would see at Tier 7, the New Orleans, the American counterpart, I mean, 143-meter horizontal dispersion with a vertical dispersion of 86 meters. So like you could see, it's just slightly improved than what you normally would see at this tier for the 203-millimeter gun. So again, really nice to be that expert marksman at the medium to long ranges, which again is where this ship is going to excel. Um, you definitely don't want to be minimum to close range in this thing. I mean, yes, medium range, of course, but you don't want to be close range in this thing just with the turret arrangement, the long reload. This is not a DPS machine. This is more an over time damage per minute sort of person ship. Sorry, that I would go ahead and play like. So don't rely on the speed of the reload of your guns. Even with Adrenaline Rush, I mean, you're not going to get it anything under what 11 and a half, 12 seconds. It's just not. It's not a wise strategy to push to be too aggressive. So that's why you're going to see here in this maneuver, based upon the enemy deployment and where ships are. You know, I'm going to see myself going in here, and I'm going to recognize, hey, I have to turn out here because if I continue to push, I think this game would have had a completely different ending to my obviously to the game. So. Um, One thing I do want to talk about, when it comes time, you'll know, I'll make sure to highlight it, is the armor piercing on these boats. Starting at the Furitaka, because you have 203-millimeter guns with your AP damage coupled with your shell velocity of how easy it is to hit the target with this, um, the AP is definitely potent, and you will do great pen damage on battleships and cruisers, and especially score Citadel ribbons on enemy cruisers, which is always awesome to see. One mistake that I see a lot of IGN captains make is they just stick with HE the entire game. And I understand that maybe back in the day with different mechanics and how they were in the game, different ships in the game, like I totally got that. I understand that. But now if you really want to play, not only be an effective cruiser commander, but especially a good IGN heavy cruiser player, you're going to want to switch between your AP and HE. I think when in doubt, if you don't know what shells to use, I would stick with the HE. I think that's a good rule of thumb. You're never not going to be right with shooting HE. Whereas with armor piercing, there are definitely be some situations that's like, wow, shit, I should not have shot or loaded the armor piercing. I should have stuck with the HE, just because you're more consistent damage that you're going to get from using that. So. You definitely have to pick your spots. I believe here is a good example of me swapping to that armor piercing because I'm anticipating that this Scharnhorst is going to turn into my div mate in the Poltava, and kind of present more of a flatter broadside for me to be able to chunk him with my armor piercing. You know, I aim the shells right there at that upper deck threshold, not superstructure, not anything lower, you know, and I still get 5,200 damage essentially. That's not bad. For armor piercing with 203-millimeter guns, I think I landed what, 7 shells, 5 pens, 2 overpens, if I'm not mistaken. That is pretty damn good. I'm happy with that outcome. So. Obviously, with the North Carolina pushing around, destroyers keeping me lit, I know that I have to try to mitigate the um, amount of battleships, and not only battleships, but ships enabled to shoot me. I know they have one of that experimental, certainly most balanced experimental ship in the Mets right there. You know, I'm having to keep track of where these ships are so that I can angle to them and mitigate the amount of ships shooting at me. Obviously, with the North Carolina shooting his armor piercing, towards the right side of his boat, I knew it was my time to turn out. And now seeing that he is distracted, again, I'm keeping an eye on his turrets. I know that, hey, I can get away with firing full broadsides at him, um, and not really having to angle too much. The reason I'm more like waggling kind of like this is because of ships that are behind me shooting at me, and I want to make sure that I don't present a broadside to them at all. Kind of like right here. AP on the North Carolina's broadside. Look at that. 9,100 and some change damage. That is unbelievable, guys. I mean, it's certainly not German levels of 203s plus, but that's pretty damn close. And it's not like the North Carolina is the most armored battleship for its tier, right? We all could agree on that one. I just want to stress to you all that when you have situations like this, I'm at 10 kilometers, and I'm able to chunk the upper deck of the North Carolina with armor piercing, which is quite incredible and quite potent. So definitely, it'll keep that in mind when you play these ships. swap back and forth. Don't just stick with the HE unless you're uncertain. It's like, do I switch to armor piercing here? I don't know. Then yes, I understand sticking with the HE, but definitely if you want to help get your damage numbers up, do the most amount of damage. As we know, heals don't heal back pen damage as much as they do like overpen and fire damage, right? As that's 100. Definitely switch between ammo types with these boats now. This is definitely a thing to do. All right, we're going against the Tier 6 Royal Navy Heavy Cruiser, the Devonshire. I'm chunking with HE, and it's notably that's at 6,000. I anticipate a full game return. I think he wants to get all of his turrets online against me or the Destroyer or whatever, so I'm sweeping to the AP, aiming slightly below waterline, anticipating that turnout, which, again, I could have, I called perfectly, and there we go. Double Citadel. Again, that ship's not entirely hard to blow up. So again, it's tier 6, but we're able to send them out, get another set of guns out of the game so they don't have to shoot us or our allies. Again, helping our team as much as we can. So already up to 138k damage, which is awesome in the Myoko. For me, I find that these ships, again, with the prevalence of the 2 additional turrets, your different layout, these ships rack up more damage than the Furthock and Ioba over time, just because you're spewing more shells down range, more shells, more damage, more shells hitting, that kind of stuff. So my immediate concern is trying to pinpoint the location of the Furthock here while respecting, I believe it's 330s on the Mets and the 410s of the Amagi. Those 2 ships can immediately send me back to port with one well-placed salvo. But then again, so can the torpedoes of the Farragut if he launches them right. Popping my hydroacoustic search here, and this is why, again, I recommend the hydro. It's more useful, as defensive AA would have little to no value in this game whatsoever for me, with the occasional fighter plane or spotter plane shot down. I'm believing that the Farragut has to be mid, just based upon last known spawn or last known, located or where he was last spotted. Again, I'm not 100% sure where he is, so I'm trying to move around, not keeping a straight course, changing left, right, adjusting my rudder, that kind of stuff. And I believe once I happen to turn out and launch my torpedoes widespread, of course, just because I don't think narrow spread at this range is going to launch, I end up picking up the enemy torpedoes getting launched in at me from the Farragut, who's actually made it to the western flank. So again, I let my team know right away, hey, Farragut torpedoes. Farragut is actually on our western flank, so we should have a little bit free reign here in the middle of the map. And I'm making sure I tell that to my division mate as well in the Leehard A. That because he already has lower HP, I don't know what the HP is on the Farragut, so he should have a little bit more leeway where he's at in the middle of the map to help us with the Amagi, which is where we need him to help us the most. If we can eliminate those 10 410 millimeter guns, that would be huge for our team in general, right? So especially for me as a cruiser player, the big guns, I don't really care about the Nuremberg. I can handle that guy, but the Amagi, the Mets, that depends. I have to be careful around those 2 guys. So I find myself in that kind of position just because I had to turn out because of the Farragut and his torpedoes. I'm going to turn back in to re-engage. Preemptively launch torpedoes. Maybe he's trying to close the gap in this direction. It doesn't hurt. I don't think my torpedoes are really going to help me against the Amagi here, as I think he's going to basically turn out. But yes, he is my primary focus with everyone else shooting him as well. Plus the Iparanga's secondaries, I believe, are on him. If I can go ahead and min-max fires with him, the Iparanga, that is, on the Amagi, that'll be huge. Again, knowing that the Amagi has turned to engage me with his turrets, I will immediately turn in and hope to dodge. And that was not only a good ricochet on my belt armor, but thank God dispersion was in our favor there. So thank you, RNGesus. Landing a torpedo hit, I believe that was our Benson. Or no, that was my div mate. Landing a torpedo? Or no, that Kazuki, sorry. Or Katsuki or whatever. Landed a torpedo on the Amagi. Obviously, he flooded, he repaired it. So now if we get another fire on him, that'll be a permanent fire. Again, watching his turrets, recognizing that he is trying to shoot me. But I guess the Benson thought it was a good idea to go ahead and shoot. Very bad misplay by him. I'm not quite sure why he did that, even though he went ahead and handed the Amagi his crack, and maybe that's what he wanted to do, is show himself as just a good overall good at worthy adversary and player, and donating his ship to that guy so he can achieve his Kraken. So good for him. No, I'm sure his main concern was maybe he wanted to set a permanent fire on him. That's probably what he was thinking, but there was just no need. His ship alive, spewing torpedoes and spotting is way more important than trying to do fires. That's more of my job. So know your role, right? Getting away again with another one there. I didn't realize he would shoot his own, back turrets at me. So again, kind of a good play by the Amagi there, shooting that off. So engaging the Mets, obviously super dangerous, super fast too. Not only does the Mets have the 330s with the AP and that improved AP with his burst fire mode, but he is fast. He is certainly fast, and we have to lead him accordingly, even though now he is going to slow down because I believe he is handing our Iparanga lunch. But yeah, just have to basically play around that and recognize that as well. So, but yeah, just so I can start talking about it here, as you guys can watch the game in the background. It's a good game. It goes all the way. We have 2 minutes and 45 seconds left in this game, so it goes all the way down to the wire. But yeah, just make sure I don't run out of time here with the recording or whatnot. I want to make sure I talk about the Myoko a little bit more, to kind of give you some more tips about her, how to play her. So basically what I've told you is, first things first, you're still building on that foundation that was laid out by the Furutaka. You're still a long-range kiting HE Sparmer early game, middle game, and only now, because there's 2 enemy vessels still in game and they're retreating, you see me being more aggressive, pushing, supporting my destroyers, supporting my battleships, helping min-max with not only fires and HE damage, but also chunking AP on broadsides as well, is what you see. Doing what I can to do that, be that overall supporting role for my team. And I think that's what cruisers do the best, and these cruisers do it in a different way. I know these cruisers are labeled selfish. At times, you have your teammates, when you're playing in that kind of position and sailing away from the battle, they will call you all sorts of names, mimicking that of female reproductive organs, and that's okay. Just know that you are playing your ship to the best of its abilities. You're using the tools that are within your toolbox, and you're not going outside your role and trying to be something that you're not. Because once you do that in these ships, you're immediately flipping the favor in the other ships. Basically giving them the advantage is what I'm trying to say. And you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you put yourself in favorable positions that are going to benefit your vessel. Again, here's a good look at those torpedo angles. I know I haven't talked a whole lot about that, so excuse me for that. I will actually make sure that I show you guys that in port when you're watching the video to begin with. But yeah, you can see that the angles of the torps are, again, more in the kited position, so it's going to be beneficial for you to launch these when you're sailing away from the target, kited, rather than pushing in, trying to expose that full amount of broadside to get your torpedoes off. So again, I'm not trying to be an asshole here. I'm just trying to let the Akazuki know that, hey, the Nuremberg clearly has hydro. Sitting in the smoke screen within the Nuremberg's anticipated hydro range is probably not ideal. I don't know if he didn't know the Nuremberg had hydro, but yeah, and kind of a misplay by him. Again, I guess in the heat of battle, we do the well done thing. Yeah, childish by me, shouldn't have done that, but whatever. But yeah, basically now with the timer at 15 seconds, I'll probably be the target from these ships. There's no point in not shooting because there's no way I can fall off detection anyways, with the Nuremberg being in my standard base detection rate. So we're just going to keep firing at them until we inevitably win this game. So all in all, man, it was a really fun game. I think we played it very well. I'm certainly not going to say textbook, but I did highlight this game to show you kind of what this thing can do. Is this a cherry-picked game? No, I happened to play, I said, hey, I need to make a video for YouTube. I want to, it's going to be the Myoko, it's going to be the next video. And I queued up in it and played one game, and this is my outcome. Is the fact that I was in a 3-man division influencing this a little bit? Maybe slightly, just because we have communication in this game. A lot of it boils down to that. But relatively no. I believe that if the Liharde, Divmate, or the Poltava, they weren't in my division, I still think the same result. I still would have gotten the same result, give or take 10, 15,000 damage. Personally, my opinion. But yeah, I mean, obviously we clock out of the game with 187,000 damage, which is awesome. Again, we're topping the leaderboard of our team with base experience earned. But yeah, just to sum up the ship, guys. This is a blast of a ship. I love this ship. Super fun. It's great tier 7. I find myself, as you can see, because I have a 19-point commander on it, going back to the ship more and more. I actually, when they do tier 7 ranked, not that this is a review for ranked, I actually find myself playing this ship from time to time again. From that potent torpedo loadout that this thing can bring, especially with the pack-a-punch skill that I'm taking on it, a lot of battleships and our cruisers don't expect that. And then with the HE and the AP this thing has as well at its disposal, it is strong and it is good. when I say strong, I'm talking about if it's in the right hands, played well, it is a strong ship. I find this ship to be very criminally misplayed in the game just because of where it's located. Um, and because you, like I told you in the beginning of this video, because of the addition of the extra batteries that this thing obtains, a lot of players expose way too much broadside. Plus those bad torpedo firing angles in this thing. A lot of players, when sailing forward, they want to go broadside, get their whole to launch their torpedoes off, and then there comes a battleship salvo flying through the air right into the broadside, and basically they're out of the game. So please be careful when playing this ship. But all in all, I think you guys will like the ship. Hopefully this review guide helps you all, and stay tuned for the next video in the series to come. Thank you all very much, and have a good one.